Hello everyone, welcome back to GeoGuessr Explained. I'm going to be playing 2 seeds of GeoGuessr today, explaining exactly what my thought process is so that you guys can improve the game as well. If you're enjoying, hit like right now, and let's get through to things on Arbitrary World, no moving here. See what we're going to see. First one here. Okay, so immediately dry climate, yellow center lines, white outer lines, concrete pole, and a short number plate in the background here, so that's immediately going to tell us some things. I think the biggest, it's good to point out whatever's the biggest clue on each given round, right? And clearly, here the biggest clue is the fact that we've got a octagonal pole here. Now you can see that it's octagonal. Just trying to think, because like sometimes you'll get similar poles in Colombia, which is what you'd confuse this one with a lot, and they will have one straight side, but the rest of it will be rounded. But yeah, it is kind of hard to make out that this is exactly octagonal here. We can see one direction of light and two. Really, you'd like to be able to see three, and I think you can kind of see that towards the bottom. But yeah, it is going to be octagonal, and octagonal poles are basically only found in Mexico with a few exceptions. Short number plate that's white also fits for Mexico. Mexican and US number plates are pretty tiny in comparison to many other countries, so that's a really good tip here as well. And then also this like kind of trident pole top is very common in the north of Mexico, but kind of everywhere in Mexico, so also a really nice tip, I would say. Okay, so where in Mexico we got the striped car 25. That's interesting. We have a good number of wooden poles. Wooden poles will tilt you towards the north as well. So we got 2 pieces of evidence that we might be towards the north of the country here. It's very flat as well. I mean, having a flat Mexico, at least by Mexican standards, would also tilt you north because the south is pretty much entirely covered in mountains until you get to Campeche, Yucatan, and Quintana Roo. But of course, they're too green and too forested for what we have here. This is like way too open to be there, I would say. Yeah, so, but still not entirely sure where I want to guess here. So we've got North Mountains. It's always good to check the direction of the mountains here. And also the direction of the road. It's kind of a southeast road, so... yeah. What exactly do we want to do here? That is the question. Yeah, I don't exactly know where this is. North Mexico can be quite weak for me. The kind of flatness of it reminds me of maybe near Texas. It looks quite a lot like Texas with these low bushes, I would say. So I'm thinking of the state of Nuevo Leon here, but really not sure. Especially with that North Mountain. It's kind of throwing me here because I feel like this makes quite a bit of sense where I'm clicked right now, but you just don't really get that many North Mountains up here, unfortunately. Like, it's a pretty flat area on the Texas border, so... yeah. Not quite sure. Maybe more up towards here. Do you... really, I don't know if you see like that kind of flatness though, or that kind of hill northeast rather inside the flatness. Anyway, yeah, it's going to be North Mexico for the reasons I described. Let's just move on because I don't really have too much else to say here. Just Tamaulipas. Okay, that makes quite a bit of sense. Not the best guess from me there. Next one here. Okay, so immediately going to be noticing that we've got a red barn in the background here. Red barns, as we've said, possible in North America, very common in the Nordics. And pretty uncommon elsewhere in Europe. And we have these kind of big plastic-style bollards that kind of make a pizza shape at the top. These ones are like the German style, which you can find in a bunch of other countries. And this is not Germany because of the Nordic architecture, so we've got to keep that in mind. We've got a kind of a very small guardrail here. This country loves to do small guardrails. And beyond that, this type of guardrail in the middle is very interesting. Not really sure if I've seen that before. Rounded one. Landscape is flat and green. Probably too flat to be Norway, I would suggest. In any case, Norway on a road like this would have yellow center lines, so if they use center lines in Norway, they should be yellow. That's a good point. Also, the way we have these kind of Z-shaped ones for the rumble strips, that's also very much common in this country specifically. Okay, so we should be really thinking about the difference between Finland and Sweden at this point, because it doesn't really look like Denmark, I would say, with this many red barns. Like, Denmark doesn't do them nearly as commonly. If we can see, like, a whole bunch of them, then it won't be there. So what about Sweden versus Finland? Well, yeah, the pizza-topped bollard here, it's not always the Swedish one, but you would never see it in Finland, basically. So, yeah, we're just going to be in Sweden for that reason. These kind of lines are also very common in Sweden. And generally speaking, on a road like this, you would normally have dashed outer lines, I would say. But you can see this kind of line instead as well. Max Burger, Swedish company. Blue signs in the background for leading to where we are. Also makes sense. Flat landscape makes a lot of sense. Like clumps of birch trees and everything. It all checks out. I think it's not going to be too far north here. What Google car do we have? We have blue car 23. Yeah, I don't think it's too far north. I think I would just go near Stockholm here. And it was actually north. Damn. What was actually blue car 23? I thought blue car 23 doesn't even exist. Wait, I gotta go back and look at that. I'll have a look back at that. But yeah, to get north here, probably the amount of birches and these thin trees here. But I always forget, like, being on a divided highway would obviously lean you south because there's more people down here, but there is a couple of roads like that between the bigger towns up there and along the coast. Okay, not the best seed so far. Anyway, we push on. Here we have Crapcam, so immediately gonna be narrowing us down to the Crapcam countries. We got India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Cambodia, Nigeria, Sao Tome, Ecuador, Alaska. That's most of them at least. Where else can you see it? Nepal soon. Lebanon. Yeah, that's about it. So we're between those ones. 2023. Huge random stones here. The shape of the blur is car-shaped. So you see a circular blur more commonly in India versus a car-shaped blur more commonly in Cambodia, if you're between the two. It's not 100% working, though. The Cambodian Crapcam is also normally 2023 copyright. And I just spied some text, which is Khmer, so yeah, it will be Cambodia. But I would have pretty much trusted with the rockiness. I mean, it's also very possible in India, but with this car blur and the silver color, I would have already trusted Cambodia anyway, so good to have some confirmation there. And the Crapcam normally tends to be between Phnom Penh and Siem Reap. So in this area here in the west of the country, like south, like central, south, and northwest is like the kind of area you're thinking with the Crapcam. And we have like rubber trees. I'm not really sure here. I'd probably just go west of Phnom Penh. It's actually just south of Phnom Penh. Double yellow lines here. Sun to the south, so northern hemisphere. Looks very dry, somewhat warm. We've got wooden poles in the background, definitely more common in the US than Mexico, if we're thinking about that with the yellow lines here, that kind of landscape that would make sense for where we should be. Got a cross on the back of the sign here. We've got a bollard as well. Okay, interesting. We got this bollard, so black rectangle with a white rectangle inside it with these 4 screws. That's going to be very helpful here. So, Mexico versus US, firstly. Mexico does sometimes do the double yellow lines as well as single yellow line. So they can do both for sure. This kind of warning thing would be much more common in the US. I think if Mexico did it, it might be black and white instead of black and yellow, but don't quote me on that. This kind of pole with 3 crossbars, I would not expect to see in Mexico. It just does not feel quite right. You can have a look for yourself at the different infrastructure they do by clicking around a bit. Cross on the back of the sign. This style, where it's like kind of lifted up, I'm not even sure what that means, to be honest. But if it was like nailed properly to the back of the sign, then it can always be Chihuahua, where they do that in Mexico. But yeah, this bollard, as I talked about, America does a lot of like random bollards. This is one of them, and this is the Nevada bollard. Pretty much doesn't exist too much outside of Nevada, so you're pretty unlucky if you get it outside of there, I would say. Though there are similar ones. And yeah, this is very dry. Feels very warm. So I'm thinking of clicking towards Las Vegas, but yeah, not too sure on that actually. Could see a bunch of places. It's just, it definitely feels like Nevada. If it wasn't Nevada, it was always going to be California or Utah or maybe Arizona. One of those 4, really, with this like kind of very warm feeling. Yeah, and you do have to like kind of build up a perception, a sense for that. We don't. This looks like the sagebrush that we had in the Wyoming round recently, but it's not. It's something else, which is a bit more warm climate. We don't see any sagebrush, which would push us up towards, you know, Idaho, Wyoming, Oregon. So yeah, I don't know. Actually, it kind of feels quite a bit like Arizona to me. So I'm going to go over in this road here. What's the angle here? The north-south angle. We're in some kind of valley, so I don't know. Not sure if I love this, but I'll give. Should actually click something that makes sense, shouldn't I? Yeah, this one. Let's go Deer Creek Road. Okay, it was all the way up here. That makes sense. Inside a valley there, like I said, with a river following along. Actually, probably very ghetto around there. So towards Caliente. Interesting. Okay, well, definitely only a small stretch of the road is inside the valley there, but or at least directly inside the valley, but probably gettable next time. Next one here. Looking around. Okay, so first thing I'm noticing, fairly thin road with no road markings. So Europe would be your first thought on around like this. But taking a look around this way, we can confirm it's not Europe because of this fence. This is an American style fence. So black with a white top on it. You will only ever see this in the US and very occasionally in Canada, Mexico. Also Hawaii as well. But like, you don't really see it in other countries, I would say. So what if we didn't have that fence? What could we use here? Well, that looks like a bollard to me, firstly, so that would be useful. Like similar kind of style that we saw last time, but obviously this is way too green to be in Nevada. And beyond that, I mean, the road itself could definitely pass as European here. And I find that, honestly, when you see a road that could really pass as European in that way, it's often California. We'll see. I think the landscape does make some sense for that idea. But at the same time, I could see this being Appalachian as well. So, yeah. How are we going to work it out? Bollards, the kind of random bollards here. Yeah, it looks like this one's fallen over. It had a white reflector. That feels more West Coast to me. You get more random bollard action in the west of the US rather than the east, I would say. But it is very generic here. Like this kind of big oak looks more eastern. And I see this house as well. That also looks more eastern. Red house with like a big kind of traditional porch. It almost feels like a bit south vibes, right? So unfortunately, I'm kind of between like California and like Kentucky, Tennessee or something like that here. That is very uncomfortable as a 50-50. I really was liking that West Coast vibe, but I think I might have to switch here. Because I feel like if that house is California, it's pretty baity. Oh, but if I'm looking this direction with the bollard as well, I'm definitely thinking west. So that's not pleasant. That's not pleasant. Oh, I think I saw something. It looks like we have like serrated. Wait, can we actually make it out closer to us? I wondered if we could be seeing over on this section of road Kentucky rumble strips, like rumble strips that go all the way to the edge of the road. But it seems like it's only just there, which looks like it. So I think it's a bit too marginal. I don't know. No, I think the trees overall do vibe more eastern though. So I will actually go eastern. Maybe Kentucky, Tennessee, Missouri, Kansas, something in this kind of middle of the country range here, I would say. Okay, it is actually Virginia. Not too bad there. At least got away from this idea. Those bollards are very strange. That really was screwing me up. Okay, only 20k there. We're still on 100% country streak for the series so far, but yeah, I mean, not the greatest, to be honest. Not the greatest play there, but let's head through to the next one here. And do some NMPZ, the king of game modes, guys. Let's see how we go. Okay, do we have our third US in a row? The reason I say that, again, fairly European-looking road almost, I could admit. But we have the exact same fence that we had last time. This one also counts here with the little bit of white at the top. We got wooden poles that are trident with 2 supports. This is like the standard US pole, I would say. Also the fact that it is like, what would you say? The crossbar's a bit lower here is pretty rare in Canada. So definitely I would call this a US pole top specifically. And then we also have the fiber optic little pole in the background, which is the white with the orange on the top. This kind of like gravelish road with a hilly landscape is making me think of a similar region to the last round, namely Missouri, southern Illinois, southern Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee. It's going to be something in that range, I reckon. Maybe even Ohio with this gravelly road. That's like kind of the states where you see this road. Obviously, it gets even more extreme in Texas, but this is kind of another region where you get this kind of texture to the road. And especially with this landscape, right? I'm thinking Kentucky again here, though. Yeah, maybe it actually does like maybe like a South Indiana or something like that. I don't know. Also, the very fact that we're on a north-south grid feels good for like Indiana, Illinois. I mean, these states here, they just love a north-south grid more than anything else in the east, because obviously you can see the south, not too much north-south grid, and of course as soon as you get to the prairies, yeah, there's tons until you get out west. It's just like the Corn Belt area, Midwest kind of, where you get a lot of this north-south. I'm thinking South Indiana. I'm gonna go Jasper, Indiana here, and it was actually Missouri, like I mentioned it might be. Yeah, I guess that kind of road is very common in Missouri. Plus the fact that we're a bit north, plus the fact we're a bit hilly, but it wasn't actually on a north-south grid, at least strictly speaking. It was a bent road here, so that kind of baited me. The fact that we can see the straight part of it. Yeah. Next one here. Okay, this is fairly difficult. So we can see the front of the Google car here, the bonnet, and it looks like we're driving left-hand side of the road. However, I just know from the way the round looks that there's no left-hand drive country that this could be, like, even theoretically. Like, it just doesn't make sense because it does not look like Asia, where a lot of the left-hand drive countries are. It's not Australia with this Google car. And, yeah, the poles set up everything. So, how do you, like, get away from the fact that this looks like left-hand drive? Well, we have like this wooden fence, which really strikes me as South American or Latin American. And you do get these elsewhere, but you should immediately, as soon as you see a fence like this, be considering Latin America. I'm not sure what's going on with these poles, to be honest. So it's kind of a matter of recognize it here. But let's talk about this. We have the gray front of the Google car here. So with a pure gray car like this, you have to consider Peru, Colombia, Mexico occasionally. So you get such a car in Brazil? Not yet, I would say. People talk about gray car in Chile, but it looks a bit different to this. Yeah, Argentina doesn't have it. So yeah, we're talking about Peru, Colombia, Mexico, and it's a pretty useful car. I guess US as well. And with such red soil and tropical feeling, I would say there are places in Mexico that look like this, but not with this Google car. It's difficult, guys. I know. I'm pretty certain it's like just down here in Colombia, and I don't really have a great way of describing why. To be honest, it's just like the east of the Andes. You get quite a bit of red soil, and actually, that contradicts something I said in the previous episode. I said normally when you have red soil in Colombia, it's in the mountains. But it can also be east of the Andes Mountains here on some of the roads. So, yeah, I guess I was kind of lying there. But, yeah, the red soil here, it's too flat for Peru, where it could be in Peru. It's kind of a matter of having to know it here, I would say. Yeah, a difficult round. I don't blame you if you missed that. Next one here, immediately sun to the north, so southern hemisphere. Like, with the sun that northern, you can be certain of it. And it should be a decent amount south of the equator as well. We have sandy soil here, low bushes, and that's kind of all we have to work with. It's Generation 3 camera. That's kind of all we have to work with here. So with sandy soil this much, with all these animal tracks in it, I would immediately associate that with like Botswana, South Africa, and these low bushes are perfectly correlating with that idea as well. And indeed, with if it's this sandy, then it shouldn't even be South Africa. It should just be Botswana. Now, where in Botswana is kind of difficult, I can't lie, because Botswana's just one of these countries where you kind of have to know all the roads, or at least a lot of the roads, in order to get good guesses. And this is one where I'm not quite sure what's going on, because it's very sandy, which is normally more in the west, but it's also very summery, which is very which is much less common in the West, where they did a lot more winter coverage or a lot more like spring, I want to say, coverage or something. So I guess we're just like, I don't actually know, you know? I guess we're like kind of somewhere around here or somewhere around here, like some really obscure road here, I think, which probably doesn't have much coverage. Oh, there is one. Just trying to think where. I was thinking of this road, but the angle's wrong. Maybe something like this. I don't know. There are some roads that look like this. Yeah, maybe like this stuff. Yeah, like that. Does that road have coverage? I can't remember, but yeah, it's gonna be somewhere. It's like somewhere deep in the desert here, and yeah, the soil plus the trees is the big clue here. It's all the way east. Normally you'd have redder soil here than this kind of brown soil. I feel like panned this way. It would have been a lot easier with these kind of rocks coming out. Looked very flat to me this direction, which wasn't actually the case. You can see there's hills from both sides. So I think that could have been a good tip, although I should definitely be getting this right. But yeah, most of the summer stuff is like out this direction, and it does get quite sandy specifically out here compared to just like generic east. So in some ways a difficult round, I would say, but we move on. This is a difficult round. Very thin road here. I would immediately think Europe, but there's a problem, and that's that this fence does not feel European. It's very thick, and it has like 5 like horizontal bars. It looks very North American to me here. It looks like Appalachian. If you see the very thin European looking road, like this is definitely European width, by the way. You should normally guess Europe here. If you see that and you think you're in North America, probably something like West Virginia makes sense, I would say. We have paint on the tree here, which I would tell you is more of a North American thing, but the way it's done in like a flag here does kind of remind me of hiking trail paint that you get in Europe sometimes. But to be honest, I can't even place this in Europe. Like, where I'm just trying to think. Like, if this is Europe, where would it be? The shape of the house looks very American to me. I think if this was somehow Europe, it's like France or Slovenia or Czechia. I don't know. It just doesn't quite make sense. It really just doesn't to me. But it's definitely an experience type of thing. That's NMBZ. A lot of times you just have to know. But yeah, this fence specifically is just not giving Europe vibes at all. So I would just go West Virginia here. And wow. Okay, I was pretty confident. Yeah, as I said, like you should just default to Europe with a road like this. And yeah, okay, it becomes obvious. So it becomes obvious when you move one step forward. I thought this chimney. This is so much easier when you can zoom. But wait, we were one more step back, weren't we? No, we were. Wait, where were we actually? Got to open the lock back because it's quite relevant, I would say. So we were here. Yeah. So I thought we had a chimney here. Is it a trunk of a tree behind? Or is it actually a chimney? You can't even tell because the next tree gets in the way. But yeah, I thought this was a chimney. I think it is actually, yeah. Wait. I moved to this frame, but it's not the same frame we had. So what? Was it this one? No. There we go. It was this frame. Yeah. I don't know. The shape of this fence is definitely suspicious. Maybe the little rocks and the little ditch here. Wait, I did not pick up. Because of the shadow, I did not pick up that there's a ditch here. That would not be American. This little gutter here. But I just did not see it while I was looking. But yeah, I don't know. That's difficult. That's difficult. Maybe if the fact that it has 5 is too many, maybe like 3 or 4 would be more common in the US. But obviously stepping forward is this is a very easy Europe just because of the architecture of the house and the roof. But yeah, I don't know. We lose our country for the first time on the series, but that's okay. And the next one here. We got a very gravelly looking road here. Not very gravelly, but very run-down road. We have a bunch of bushes around the place here. No big trees. Guardrail is present. No center lines. And if we assume we're driving right hand side of the road, which would be a very fair assumption here, then we can't see the back of the car, so we can't see the front of the car, so we can assume the back of the car is behind us, and therefore probably that we're in Europe. I mean, landscape-wise and road-wise, Europe makes the most sense anyway. 2023 copyright here. Where is this? So obviously what comes to mind here is like Greece, Sardinia, Corsica, Spain. Is southern Italy possible here? To me, it kind of gave me a Sardinian vibe, I can't lie. But I don't really... It's just vibes. I think normally you would have some center lines here. The fact that they've just left it with 2 white outer lines is very common in Italy, to just leave it with 2 white outer lines, especially on thinner roads than this. It's a pretty vast landscape, that's my concern. Like, if you guess on an island, you have to bet that you're right in the middle of an island, because we can see quite a bit into the distance. It makes me think it might be, maybe the Greece idea is better here, maybe like Peloponnese Peninsula here. I don't know. I think I like Greece most of all. But yeah, it's something Mediterranean, not my strong suit, to be honest. NMPZ Mediterranean. Oh, but let's see. I don't mind this area. And it was Peloponnese, yeah. Kind of my 50-50 there. Let's see if we can open up the lock and... I mean, we have black Guga, which is really common in Greece. Yellow field inside, like I mentioned yesterday. Yeah, obviously if we can see... I mean, it's quite unfortunate these rounds we're just out of eyeshot of these buildings here, which would not have really struck me as Italian. Also, fairly difficult Greece, though, I would say. Anything in the guardrail to say here? Probably not. I wonder if this little arrangement here with the big one and the small one could be something. Might have a little look around after this and report back to you guys, but... yeah. I mean, very similar vegetation. You can just see Peloponnese is quite a bit bigger than Sardinia, so I think it does make sense that we can see more of the background here, more of these big mountains. I think we were looking north, right? Let's see again. Yeah, we were looking north, so it does make sense that we could see these mountains. Like, yes, it was possible that we'd be seeing these ones or something, but just probably the mountains stop a bit too soon, a little bit too soon. But it's just like it's a difficult round, and we end up with some fairly poor scores today, but also on some tough seeds, I think. So, hope you all enjoyed it. It's been a long one. I'll see you guys tomorrow.